Today's wholehearted conversation is with the luminous Karen Gunton from Adelaide in South Australia. Now, Karen and I have this wonderful twisting and turning conversation going through from when she first started as a teacher way back in Canada to coming over to Australia with her husband, starting a family, and accidentally starting a business, as she describes it. It's a twisting turn right from photography through to graphic design into the business builder that she is today. Now, the conversation goes from looking at things such as envy and how it actually is a good thing because it lets you know what it is that you really want in life. We talk about how important it is to have a vision and a mission rather than just selling your thing if you decide to start a business. We talk about how to regain your lost mojo when you're just feeling flat and as though it's all too hard. We delve into discovering what is it that lights you up and the worthiness trap that you need to move through when you start to doubt yourself. And finally, we're tapping into how to find your own strengths and talents so that you can actually follow your dreams, and how to avoid, or even if you find yourself in, some of those pitfalls on the way to creating your own next chapter, how to navigate your way out through those again. I know you're going to find both a ton of inspiration, but also some very practical steps that you can take as you build your own lighthouse in your next chapter and shine that light really bright. Inspiration, clarity, confidence, and wholehearted business strategy. Welcome to Your Next Chapter, the podcast especially for women in their 40s and beyond who know that business and personal development go hand in hand. Tune in each week for marketing, mindset, and personal growth strategies, along with inspiring stories from women around the world who are creating new businesses and lives that are personally fulfilling and financially rewarding. If you're looking to create a business and life you love, you're in great company. Let's find out what will unfold in your next chapter. I'm your host, Angela Rasmus, and I'm so delighted that you're here. Well, hello there and welcome back to another episode of the Your Next Chapter podcast. I have such a treat for you today because we're speaking to the leader of the Lighthouse Revolution, the gorgeous Karen Gunton from Adelaide in South Australia. Now, Karen describes herself as an unstuckter. Now, what the heck is that? It's one of her superpowers, helping people get unstuck from where they are so that they can move forward into what they truly want to do. Her story, her background, her mission is absolutely inspiring, and I know you're going to love this conversation. So, Karen, thank you so much for finding the time to join us today.
Thank you so much for having me and for the beautiful introduction. I'm just all excited listening to myself be described that way. Thank you.
You're so welcome. It's nice actually sometimes when you sit back and go, wow, is that how I'm actually seen? Because it's absolutely true. It's a good feeling.
I know, we don't always see ourselves clearly, so it's so nice when you just get reminded in little ways throughout your day that what you do and what you care about matters.
Absolutely. It has purpose, it has meaning, and as we were just talking about before we hit the record button, your book, your Lighthouse Revolution book, which just had over 1,500 downloads just in 5 days with your promo on Amazon. Think of that message in so many people's hands. That gets me really goosebumpy and excited.
Me too, and that was really the driving force to just figure out how to get it out there and do the work to share the message, because that's really the aim. Every time a book was downloaded, I just pictured somebody else igniting their light in the world, and that's what really excites me.
That's beautiful. Well, I know that, and we'll dig down deeply into what the Lighthouse Revolution is all about, but as with all of the guests who come and chat on the Next Chapter podcast, that's not where it started. So I love sort of getting in the time machine and going backwards and finding out what were your previous chapters before you began this one in the world. So can you shed a light, or shine a light, shall I say, on the journey that you've taken up to this point?
Absolutely. I'm like you. I find people's journey so fascinating, and I think that that's actually, where you learn where you need to go next is by looking back at the road so far. So that really, just even understanding that in myself helped me to take the next steps into my next chapter. So when I first started my sort of career journey, I suppose, I started as a high school science teacher, which is so, exactly what I'm doing right now. But I never in my wildest dreams would have ever thought that I would be anything else but a science teacher. I sort of started that career thinking that that was going to be it until I retired. And then one day I had a baby and my perspective changed. And while I was on maternity leave over in Canada with this small person, my whole outlook kind of shifted, and I suddenly began to think that I didn't really want to go back to my career. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I didn't even know who to talk to about that, because nobody in my world, walked away from their teaching career once they started. Everybody sort of just kept working on that job and until the day they retired. And so I didn't really know what to do. And one day my husband came home he was doing his PhD, and he came home and said, "Hey, what do you think about moving to Adelaide? I want to go to medical school there." And the joke always goes that I, Googled Adelaide and saw the weather and the beach and said, "Hell yeah, I'll do that." But the secret truth inside is that for me, it was an escape. It was a way that I could run away from having to decide what I was going to do with my life and my career. So that's what I did. I ran away to the other side of the world.
There could be worse places to run. There could be much worse places to run, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was good. But of course, once I got here, after a little while, I started to want something else. And I didn't know what that was. And I kind of experimented with some different things. And I was really in my free time developing this hobby of photography and graphic design. And one day somebody asked me how much I would charge. And in that moment, I thought, maybe this could be a thing. And I always say that I accidentally started a business because I didn't know what it was doing. But when someone asked, if they could pay me for my services, that became the next chapter for me. So I started this photography business, and it was fun. What I loved really was learning about business and learning about marketing and branding and learning about getting my work out to the world and also connecting with other people. That was amazing, for somebody who moved to the other side of the world and had a little baby at home. I suddenly had peers again. I had connections, and that was amazing. And so after a little while, I decided I felt really called to share what I was learning about business. And so I started this little blog on the side for something fun to do with all my free time. And it was called Build a Little Biz. And I never really thought that anybody except for my mom, would read that blog. And to my surprise, it became really popular. And I then eventually, shut down the photography business and focused on helping other women in business with their branding and their marketing, their visual marketing, and all of their design work, as well as, empowering them to create, their own images and graphics to help them get their message out to the world. So that then became another chapter. I don't know what chapter we're on now, about 4 or 5, I think. But I did that for a long time, and that was really great. And then over time, I myself started to feel like I'd lost sight of where I was going and what I was doing. And I also felt like there had to be more to the story. You could teach all these sort of marketing strategies, which are fantastic, and I love teaching that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're not doing the inner work, if you don't feel like you're on purpose, if you don't feel lit up from within, and if you're not working on your own stuff, your own mindset and all of that resistance and stuff, I don't think any strategy can take you very far. And so in my own journey, I realized that I needed to come back to me. And that now is really what I teach other people to do with the Lighthouse Revolution. So this is, the current chapter of the book that I'm on. But, every stage brought me to where I am right now. And I'm really thankful for that,
That's a really good reflection to be able to see that every step that you took brought you to this point. Oh, we got a little bit of echo happening here.
Oh, sorry. Is it all right now?
I think it's mainly on my side. Interesting. But we shall persevere because it wasn't there before. So, that concept of if you were sitting in your role back when you were in Canada and tried to imagine doing what you're doing today, that leap would have been too significant.
Oh, yeah, I would think it was ridiculous. Like, none of what I'm doing right now was even on my radar. You mentioned the fact that I've just published a book. Even 2 years ago, if somebody would have said that I would do that, I would have thought they were crazy. So what I try to do is just keep really open to whatever new things are calling to me and have a willingness to keep stepping on the journey, because what we kind of see as being that vision, that ultimate in our next steps, is sometimes hard to picture because we haven't even gotten part of the way there. So you can't even begin to imagine. So looking back sort of at my own journey has really taught me to keep going, to keep be willing to take steps, and that you're not actually ever really going in circles. You're always kind of going somewhere new, as long as you're open to that. I think the hard thing happens is when we stay in a stuck kind of safe, small place. And that's where, those new things aren't going to come into view.
And now that's the really interesting idea, that we can look back with what I often call the benefit of hindsight, and that's when you can see how the dots were connected. But when you're actually in it, it's really hard. I love that quote about you don't have to see the whole staircase, you've just got to take the next step. But sometimes being in that place can be quite or stuck, I guess, to use your words from before. And how did you find yourself being able to see that next opportunity, or see what was that next step that you were to take? Was it simply, following a gut instinct, or how did it work for you? Because I think a lot of women can be in a place and not sure how to keep moving.
Well, one thing I've tried to do is listen to that. I suppose it's like a gut instinct. I haven't really put a word to it, but I always think of it like that inner, whisper inside. There are things I think each of us are longing to do, longing to explore, we feel called towards or drawn towards. And I've tried to pay more attention to making space for those things. One of the quotes that I use in my book is that you can do this and that. So you can be working on this stuff, that you need to be doing, but you can also make space for that stuff, that's just kind of drawing you in or calling to you in some way. And another little strategy that I'll share that I think is really valuable is if you pay attention to the places where you look at what other people are doing and you feel really envious or jealous, or you have that feeling of like, that's so cool. I wish I was doing that. Or I wish I'd been asked to do something like that. I wish I'd thought of that idea first. Those things can actually be signs. We sometimes beat ourselves up, for those feelings of jealousy or comparison. But the way that I look at it is those are little signs that are pointing to things that are whispering inside of us that we haven't paid attention to. So now it's coming up, in our view. It's like that tapping on your shoulder. So for instance, with the book, I saw other people putting out, these books and sharing their story. And, the book was being talked about, shared between groups of friends. And I thought, I wish I had something like that. And then I thought, well, I could do that. I could figure that out. I could make that happen. And so it was that feeling of, seeing what other women were doing in this space that made me think maybe those are signs of not ways to knock myself down because I'm not there yet, but rather in what places could I be rising up? What steps could I take closer to that picture that obviously really appeals to me?
I love that. I love the idea that envy is almost like a signpost, because it's tapping into a desire that you've got. And so if you allow yourself to, I guess that moment that you feel that would be so important, because it would be very easy to go, oh, well, that's for other people. That's so far away from where I am, and who am I to think? And if we manage to hit the pause button on that voice and instead look on the other side, the curious part of, well, how could I make that happen? That's obviously what you've become a master at doing, because of that step after step after step of moving into those new areas.
Yeah. And I think it really just takes practice. And it's part of that idea that we need to be doing that inner work all the time and building ourselves up, because a positive mindset doesn't just magically appear when you decide to shine your light in the world. So it's something you actually have to do. So it's been a work in progress, but for the past few years, I really do try to find just little tiny strategies like that, just shifting your perspective in one way or catching yourself in that moment, pulling out that tool belt and saying, what what's happening here? What could I learn from this? So that's kind of one of my favorite things to do now with people is find those little strategies that will make a difference.
Yeah, and they don't have to be
Mm-hmm.
huge. I think that's
No.
we can often sort of lose track of that. That it doesn't have to be a
Yeah.
big mind-blowing, world-changing step. It can be something as
Yeah.
simple as recognizing, being aware
Yeah.
that there's a
Hmm.
twinge there. I want that. Yeah, I totally agree with the mindset part. That I mean, I work with regularly with a mindset coach. I'm in a mastermind. I run masterminds, and I've seen very much the power of being surrounded by like-minded people that can help lift you up, can help move you forward when you're feeling a little bit wobbly. Who
Mm.
have you found have been great influences for you in that respect?
Well, like you, I have a coach myself, and I'm part of an amazing mastermind group. Similar thing, where people just help me feel like just being with them makes me want to keep striving and keep working. And then I also, in my work with other people, I just am constantly open to learning, even from people who are coming to learn from me. I'm thinking about the things that I'm learning as well from them. And I think that, especially when you teach or guide in any way, you're constantly also being taught. And I just try to be open to that. And then I think the other thing that helps me too is I kind of along those lines of, looking at what other people are doing, the places you feel envy and that sort of thing. I really try to have what I call these sort of lighthouse role models, people who I think are really doing amazing things in the world. And I try to surround myself with that in my view. So even if those people are not actual mentors to me, I don't know them, I can still look at what they're doing. And rather than compare myself against them, be thinking, it's my turn next. They're showing me that it can be done. I'm learning, all the ways that they're sharing their message in the world. And that really excites me and inspires me. So I try to surround myself with people that I think are really rising up in amazing ways because that inspires me to do that as well.
And I love that idea of I'm not there yet. It's my turn next.
Mm,
That's just a twist in the way of looking at it. So you can take that envy and then you can recognize that's what I'm looking for, and then you can support yourself that it's not that I'm not there yet. It's that it's coming for me. That's just such a great way of considering it. I think it was Barbara Stanny was someone whose work I've read a lot of, and she talks about way showers. So,
mm,
Oprah is a great way shower for so many people. So, yeah, she might not be a personal mentor, or Brené Brown is certainly a way shower for me,
mm.
and Kristen Neff when it comes to self-compassion. So, I love that idea of or to use your analogy, they're shining a light on the path of possibility for us, and they're
Absolutely.
showing us that way forward.
Mm.
It's a nice way of looking at it. Well, let's talk about the lighthouse revolution as it is at the moment, because I love the way that you describe that it's easier to be on a mission than it is to sell a thing, and that really resonated with me. I think it was such a great expression. Can you expand on that for us as to why you think that is so?
Well, what I've learned on my journey through my chapters is that exact thing that when you're selling, and I think many of us start out, in the business space, really thinking about what we're selling. We come to this world because we have something that we're good at that we want to share, or somebody maybe says, "How much do you charge?" And you think, "Oh, okay, maybe this could be it." And that's wonderful because it takes us through this process of building our business and also building ourselves, because of course it's this crazy personal development journey as well as a business development journey. But I think that we get to a point, so many of us, where we're probably like me thinking, there must be more to it than just sort of waking up and putting out this product every day and selling it over and over again. What else could I be doing? Especially if we start to be thinking about things like maybe writing a book or starting a podcast or standing up on a stage speaking, being interviewed by people. We start to have these bigger goals, maybe even creating a bigger community. And in order to rise up into those spaces, we must actually start thinking about what is bigger than the thing that I'm selling. Because if you're going to end up being interviewed by someone like Oprah or whoever that is to you, then you're probably not going to be interviewed about the product that you sell or the service that you sell. What people want to hear about is that why. They want to hear that bigger story, that thing that's bigger than you. And so I really recognize this in myself in my own journey. when I was feeling that kind of stuckness in my business and thinking about where am I going with this, feeling like I'd lost my mojo, feeling like I wasn't really sure what my purpose was anymore and what my why was. And it was around that time for me that the lighthouse became a symbol in my own path. I actually heard a quote. I saw a quote on Pinterest from Anne Lamott that says, "Lighthouses don't go running all over an island looking for boats to save. They just stand there shining." And I know it just is such a good feeling it gives you to hear those words. And when I read them, I just had goosebumps. I thought, yes, that is what I want. I want to just stand there shining. And so I went on this sort of journey, this path to figure out what lights me up, what ignites my spark, what is my purpose, what are the gifts that I'm here to share with the world. And then, of course, that took me on a path to start thinking about how I was going to build my mindset up enough to get my work out to the world and how that would shift my business. So even though it was really a stepping up into a new chapter, it was kind of, like we said, all those baby steps along the way. And what eventually happened was I decided to share that symbol of the lighthouse with others. It was almost 2 years after I was inspired to kind of go on my own personal journey to figure out what lights me up. And I started to, and that was the beginning of the Lighthouse Revolution. But what happened was I shared my story. I shared about what the lighthouse meant to me. And I shared about all the ways that I felt lost and stuck and, all those things that we tend to not always speak about really openly in the online business world. And what I found was that message resonated in a really powerful way. People told me over and over again how much that symbol of the lighthouse meant to them and what it meant to them and the symbol that they got out of it, the message that they got out of it. And much like starting my business in the first place, I had this moment where I thought, maybe this is a thing in and of itself. Like maybe this is that thing I've been searching for that's bigger than the products and services I sell. And so the Lighthouse Revolution has become my mission. And I still offer lots of products and services. So it also acts like an umbrella. When you understand what that bigger thing is, that's bigger than the thing you sell, is bigger than yourself even. You're part of, a group of, like you say, way showers. You're part of this group of torch bearers who are all, trying to bring something better into the world with their mission. And that's exciting to talk about. And it, as you said, it's much easier to talk about your mission, to be on your mission, to be fired up, to be excited, to be angry, to be sad, and to share all of that than it is to constantly say, hey, do you want to buy my book? Or hey, do you want to buy my design package, or do you want to buy my service that I offer, or do you want to buy this jewelry that I made? Of course we're working on selling our things, but when you can start to dig in deeper and kind of expand your thinking about the bigger mission, I think that's where you really start to tap in to your own passion in even bigger ways. And you also start to connect with people in much deeper ways who care about the same things you do. And so that's where I've kind of gone on my business journey. And I would imagine that there are many people thinking about their next chapter who are kind of wondering those same things. Like, how do I get to that place where I can, build a community or speak on a stage or write the book? And I would say that would be where to start. Just think about what you care about that's bigger than that product that you're selling.
And that's as I'm listening to you and I'm seeing there's sort of pictures building in my mind of your message spreading from person to person to person, and all of those people being connected and perhaps at first huddling under the umbrella as they as you're sort of setting that up. So it's really about resonance, isn't it? Because I hear, let's say I'm an individual and I hear your message, and that message of talking about, lighting your path and finding your way and standing for something bigger than you are. It sort of works both ways. And I feel connected to the message, and then flowing on from there, well, here's some products and services that can help you do the same. But I don't actually leap to the products and services. You first of all connect and appeal to my emotions, and I feel as though I'm a part of this movement. Is that the underpinning that you're feeling, that people are joining the community, the Lighthouse community, because they feel a part of?
Absolutely. And I think it's a little bit of a flip of sort of the traditional way we look at business, where we think about what we're going to offer and sell. And then we think about, where we're going to find our people. And then we start sort of building that community based on those people being customers. The mission mindset, I think, is a little bit opposite. As you said, what you're doing is sharing your mission. You let your mission be your message instead of the product that you're selling being the message. And then you build your community, and then you're selling to that, that bigger community. And you can also then develop new things to sell to that community because you're so connected with them. You can see what else they need. And it allows you, I think, at least it has for me, to evolve. So within my bigger umbrella, I can try out a product or a service, and then I can shift and I can do something different and, maybe not offer that one anymore, or I can expand it or change it. And it's not quite as this struggle, when you first have something and you think, I'm not sure I want to do that anymore, but how do I shift gears? When you have a bigger umbrella, that bigger mission, it's really easy to shift the gears around underneath the surface, because it still fits. And that's kind of nice as well, because I do think we evolve in such massive ways, which is why we end up taking, these next chapters. And so having a mission, I think, allows that room for evolution. We know it's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's by sharing your story as well, you've shown that, hey, I didn't just turn up here in this shape today. There's been a journey bringing me to this point, and that journey is continuing. It's very similar to, which is why you and I resonate so much, it's very similar to the journey that I see my own clients going on. We've been living one chapter or two chapters, and we get to a certain stage and we realize it's time for a new one. But that doesn't mean you throw out all the stories that there were before.
Right.
It's really examining those experiences that you've got, and that's where you can find those little nuggets of what is it that's important to you, what do you stand for, what do you believe in. So I love how you said right at the beginning about how looking back and referencing the past actually begins to then show you what's possible in the future.
Absolutely. And that's absolutely what happened with the Lighthouse Revolution. I was able to look back and see how every step led me to there. And also those moments, those passions, those things you were once excited about, those big aha moments or those turning points, they all kind of become pieces of a puzzle that show you this bigger picture as you start to add them in. And so from that, looking back, I was able to say, well, clearly I love teaching. Clearly, that's never gone away. I love, connecting with people about this deeper stuff. And I love inspiring others through words. And so I was able to take all those things that I'd done in pieces and start to bring them together in a bigger way for this chapter that I'm in now. And also with my mission with the Lighthouse Revolution, I still have room to keep evolving and keep taking steps. In a year from now and 2 years from now, I'll look back to this time and I'll think, I can see how, that was really important at that time. And what does that mean for where I'm going next?
This is where how you were saying, and I totally concur about this business journey is damn well a self-development journey, a personal growth journey. It's like it never ends, does it?
No, I don't think there's anything that's a bigger self-development journey than those of us who are, doing this work of owning our own business and starting, sharing our message in this way. It really pushes you in ways you never, ever would have imagined when you started.
Oh, it does. And that whole, sometimes there's that fear of being visible and the fear of actually sharing your perspective. And I guess we're talking at the moment about, the great feelings and that feeling of getting behind your mission and that feeling of, expansiveness and what I've got to say, can really connect with people and perhaps make a difference. But there's also some pitfalls, isn't there? I mean, to have a really wholehearted conversation, we need to look at both sides of the coin. So what have you found difficult or what sort of pitfalls, or I often call them potholes, have you hit in the road that you can then help other people navigate their way around?
Well, I think stepping up to this sort of newer level in business of having that mission and having something that's, even bigger than the products I sell, it does require me to keep working on being more visible and to keep, getting my message out in even bigger ways. And this is even bigger than, I obviously had to do those things when I first started out selling my photography. But I think with each level that you take, you push those buttons again and again. It never, ever really ends. Even though you're hitting new levels, you're coming back to the same stuck stuff, that is going to get you down. So I think for me, big ones that have come up have been around worthiness, especially stepping up and sharing the Lighthouse revolution. I had a long period of time where I kept thinking, it's not special enough yet. It's not, unique enough. And even though it was very unique, I was telling myself this story about how it wasn't special and, nobody was going to, come along for the ride. And what I realized was what I was believing was that I wasn't special enough or I wasn't enough, in some way. And so for me, worthiness has been a big part of my journey, just building that up every day and believing that I'm enough exactly as I am. And believing, when people tell me that they absolutely do value what I'm sharing, believing them. Believing in your own brilliance and trying to see yourself clearly, because I have to rise up every day. I have to keep on doing the work. If I don't, I'm doing a disservice to all the people out there who are, looking and waiting to be able to ignite their light in the world. So yeah, that's probably my biggest one. There's been lots of other ones, but that's the one that comes up sort of with every new level I hit, is that who am I? Who am I to do this? I'm just a teacher. I'm just a mom. I'm just, this woman at home figuring out on her own. There's always, those thoughts that I'm constantly working on every day.
Oh, that one is such a common one. I mean, it's certainly one that I can relate to enormously, and it's, as we'd both hear from our own clients, it's a belief or a misbelief, as I like to call it, that comes up so often. And that who am I? One of the things I've got sitting on the corkboard just beside me here is the lovely Marianne Williamson quote about we're all meant to shine.
Yeah. I've got that in my book as well. It's such a beautiful, beautiful quote and so important.
I'll make sure that I'll pop a picture of this one in the show notes for this episode, because I think it resonates really strongly with the point that you're making, and I certainly feel as well, which is why I'm such a Brené Brown fan. So it's that I've often found that if we can, one of the expressions that I use is to get off self, because when we've got that mirror turned around to ourselves and looking at ourselves and going, who am I and who do I think I am and why do I think my message is useful, that's quite self-centered in a way. If we can turn that around and look out and instead focus on the people that we know we are here to help, that's the thing that often gets me out of that pit of, oh, who am I? The unworthiness trap, as I call it. Have you found yourself that if you come off that focus about who am I and focus on who am I here to help instead, does that help you move forward?
Yeah, absolutely. If I focus on I always say focus on the soul on the other side of your message, the real human soul, who's there reading your email or looking at your Facebook post or your Instagram photo or whatever. And I think that brings me out of that space of the everything I put out is around, I got to get my message out. I got to sell more books. I've got to sell more packages, and I've got to, do all that stuff. And of course, we do have to do that stuff, but it does get me out of that kind of that place that feels like you're ticking boxes and you're focusing so much on all the strategy and all the things you should be doing. Instead, I try to focus on the person on the other side of the message and who's there listening and who's waiting, at home, struggling with whatever it is they're struggling with, and just knowing that if I just say this one more time today in this moment, what does she need to hear, and what would help her right now?
So that's pausing and getting really intentional before you create any communication.
Yeah, I try to. I mean, we don't always remember to because life gets so busy. But I find that kind of focus on, again, that thing that's bigger than me, that this isn't all about me. This is my message is one that inspired me and inspired my journey. And it comes from my soul. It comes from my heart. However, it's not about me. It's about this much bigger picture, which is that everybody deserves to shine their light in the world. One thing that just came to mind to share is there was this great blog post by Chris Brogan where he said, what are you doing to make your customer the hero of their story? And when I think about the lighthouse as a symbol, and I think about, you can picture this, we have this sort of romantic notion, the stormy weather, and the lighthouse is this beacon of light shining. But in reality, the lighthouse isn't the hero of the story. The captain of the ship is. And so for any one of us who are sharing our message with the world, whatever our message is, and especially when we start to step into a mission, the stories that we share and the ways that we connect with people are really about helping them be the hero of their story. And we're just there, to be that beacon that catches their attention in some way or lets them know that they're not alone. But our efforts are really about them.
Oh, that one gave me goosebumps, Karen. That is so, so true. Oh,
Thank
so, so
you.
true. But it doesn't matter what service you're offering. I mean, this can
Mm,
go cut right across all spectrums, from someone
mm,
that's helping somebody design a website to get their message out there, to a life coach who's helping someone move past those blocks, to a business mentor like ourselves that is helping people, put together and package up and create their mission and who do they connect with. Whatever it is that you're providing as a service, ultimately, it's helping others become the hero of their own story.
mm-hmm,
Love that.
mm-hmm.
Oh,
And for that, like, we can't actually give up. We can't, because they need us. Our little boats out there need us. And so we have to keep showing up every day and getting over ourselves, getting over that mindset stuff, and just keep showing up and shining our light, because it's a disservice to the world if you don't.
and I love the idea of because what's coming up as we're having this conversation is that to stay away from thinking about ocean liners, just focus on the little boats at the
Yeah.
moment. So I think we
Yeah.
can often get tied up in that idea of we need to be bigger and better and
Mm,
brighter and the whole thing almost 6 steps
mhm.
down the line, when we
Yeah.
can make a difference just with one person just today,
Yeah.
and that means you're
Yeah.
on your way.
Absolutely.
Means you're on your way. Oh, I love this. And I want to just circle back just for a moment. There was something else that you were saying when you were talking about worthiness and you really understanding and beginning to own the value that you can impact the world with. But there was that other piece about believing in your own brilliance and
Mm.
actually accepting the praise and the feedback that you get without actually going, oh, no, 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 well, it's nothing. Well, anyone could do this. Have you found that that's a theme that has come up with yourself that you've had to work through, the self-deprecation that a lot of us can do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I first shared my message of the Lighthouse Revolution, I had a reader say to me, I think sometimes because we're on the inside of the lighthouse, we don't actually see how bright our light shines. And I always remember that, because I do think sometimes we don't see ourselves clearly, because, our windows are all fogged over with all this doubt and worry and fear and lack and memories of things that people said in the past. And part of our job is actually to clear away all that crap, clear away all that fog, so that the light can actually get out and shine for the people who need it. And I think that one of the ways we can do that is really to see ourselves clearly. And I'm a really big proponent of people tapping into and remembering, what your strengths are. What are your talents? What are your gifts? What are you amazing at? What have people told you over and over that they love? And really coming back to that often, because I think it's easy to get clouded over and forget that stuff. And I'm a very, very big proponent of celebrating the things that you do that are amazing, whether it's celebrating a win or celebrating something that you just have been reminded of today that you're good at. Even that moment at the beginning of our chat where you said such lovely things about me. In that moment, I just wanted to absorb that in and just take it in and remember that stuff is indeed true. When people tell you they love what you do, believe them. Because I think when we take a moment and absorb that stuff and we don't self-deprecate and we don't knock ourselves down, or we don't, turn down our light from shining so bright, because God forbid, that we shine too bright in the world or we outshine other people, and we have to stop dimming it. We have to stop self-deprecating and instead just in that moment own the truth and celebrate it. And that's how we teach our brains to believe that it's true. We teach our brains that we are deserving of good things because we are indeed worthy exactly as we are.
I think that's something that we need to work on constantly. It's I don't know if
Mm,
it's more of a female thing or I work with women a lot in their 40s and beyond, so they've often spent a lot of time caring for other people and not
mm,
actually putting their own needs first and shining their own light because they've been shining it for everybody else. And
mm,
so that's something we definitely have to practice. And I
yeah.
we were talking before of that we strategy that you have of being aware of what it is that so being aware of what it is that you're envious of, and that sort of
Mm,
is turning up your awareness of, oh well, that's a direction I want to move in. Well, another wee strategy that I've certainly found very helpful for myself and my clients is there's the age old gratitude list that you do at night where you write down the
mm,
five things that you're grateful for, and I've certainly done that for a very very long time. It helps sort of reprogram my brain to look for the positive, but
yeah.
sitting alongside that is just to jot down in that same journal on that same night, what am I proud of today? What did I do well
Mm.
today?
Yes.
And
What
it
do you
could,
love about yourself?
yes.
What are you, yeah, what are you proud of? What are you absolutely in love with? When we come up with these things or we do something and we have that moment where you think, "Oh, I'm in love with that. I'm brilliant." And but we don't savor those moments, it's almost like this passing thing. God forbid though, if you have like a failure or someone says something crap to you, something critical, someone judges you, God, we dwell on that stuff. Don't we? We dwell on it.
Oh, we
But when it
do.
comes to the good stuff, we let it pass by like a flicker. And I'd love to see people change that, instead of bashing ourselves down, beating ourselves up, loving ourselves up instead.
Yeah, it's just so vital. And as you
Mm,
do build that self-belief muscle, then that's when I think you get that confidence as you have to take the next step, to get curious about, well, what could that mean for me? How could I make that happen? And be brave enough to take that next step. That's how you write
mm,
new chapters. And it's really
absolutely.
so hard to be an author of your own story when you don't have the belief that you can even pick up the pen.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And I'll
that
just add that I think, even though I've got, love all these strategies and I love sharing them with people, I don't have all this shit figured out. I want to be really real. Like I work on this stuff every day and we talked about, I just launched the book and it was this amazing thing. It was an amazing, amazing 5 days. And in the middle of that 5 days, like I think on day 2 or I woke up on the morning of day 3 and I just felt like crap. I just was like, wanted to throw it all in. I wanted to give up. I felt really sad and down. And I thought, what is going on here? I should be celebrating. But, as soon as we hit these new levels of
mm,
feeling great, of feeling like, we're doing amazing work in the world, we trigger stuff. And so I had to pull out all my tools, all of them, and think, okay, what do I need to do in order to, sweep away this crap and keep showing up, keep shining my light, get over myself once again so that I can keep getting this message out to the world. So I just wanted to share that because I think it's so important. We sometimes think we see other people doing these things and we think, oh, they got it so figured out. They're amazing. I'm
yeah.
just not there yet. I am telling you right now, I am not there yet either. I work on it every single day. I've just gotten better at, like you said, the awareness, the
Yeah.
recognition, the calling it for what it is and just doing the work. Just like I have to do the marketing work and the branding work, I have to do the me work too.
Yeah, completely. That's the foundation of the business without a doubt. And I love the fact that you have paused to make that revelation, shall we call it, that we don't have it all together. I mean, I don't think there is a single person I've spoke to, and I've spoken to, when it comes to interviewing for my podcasts and for the tele summits that I've done, I've spoken with a huge array of people from just getting started to absolutely, inverted commas, killing it, with millions and millions of dollars worth of turnover in their business. But not a single person that I've spoken to ever said, I've got it all together, no fear, no doubt, I can do anything, I'm Superman. We all have these moments, and we do
Mm-hmm.
have this belief sometimes when we look at other people. We're comparing our insides with other people's outsides, whether it
Mm-hmm.
be a confidence thing or a business success thing, and it's just not like that. It's just not like that at all. So it's great to hear, in this conversation that even when you were, churning out those more than 1,500 downloads of people with this wonderful book, and we'll tell everyone how they can find it, that's important, but that wonderful book in their hands, but even then you started to pull back as well. So thank you for being so transparent there.
No problem. That's kind of my thing. I like to keep
Yeah,
it real.
yeah, I'm with you there for sure. Well, Karen, this has been just a gorgeous conversation. Just hearing, the progression from when you were back there in Canada as a teacher, now compared to where you are now. Now, neither thing that you're doing is better than the other. It's not a comparison in that respect. It's just being able to see your own evolution and for you to be able to follow what was calling you to become who you are today. And I dare say if we come back and chat in another couple of years, there'll be a fresh chapter happening in your life as well, because you're always moving forward and expanding, which is the thing that I really love to watch and witness.
Oh, thank you. I have the same sense, that in 2 years from now, yeah, we'll see what happens. It'll be
Yeah,
amazing.
it's going to be fascinating to follow. Well,
Hmm.
I've got no doubt that plenty of ladies who are listening would like to come and find out more about the Lighthouse Revolution. So where can we discover you online?
I'm at KarenGunton.com. And from there, you'll see the link, to check out the book if you want, to join our amazing Lighthouse Revolution community. And there's some other fun stuff on there as well, some fun freebies and things to explore your mission and your mindset and everything else. So yeah, it's all at KarenGunton.com.
That's wonderful. I'll make sure I pop that hot link in the show notes on the website as well. Well, is there anything that you would like to leave us with? If you're thinking that there's a woman listening right now who's perhaps on the cusp of stepping into her next chapter, but isn't quite sure how to take that leap, or isn't quite sure what it's going to look like, what would you like to leave her with that so she can gather up that courage and follow her heart and take that step forward?
There's a quote that comes to mind that I want to share, and what I would like to say is that the thing that I think you need to give yourself permission to do is to explore and be vulnerable, and to speak whatever is bubbling up in your heart in whatever way feels genuine to you. That's the only way that I came to do the Lighthouse Revolution, was because I was brave enough to start sharing my stories and what inspired me and what I was struggling with, and that resonated in a powerful way. But I had to give myself permission first. And the quote that comes to mind is from Gabby Bernstein. And she says, "When you are moved by your message moves the masses." So if you're thinking that what you want to do in whatever aspect of your business, and you're ready to rise up and you're ready to connect with more people and maybe explore what that next step is and what your mission might be, the first thing is to be moved by your own message. So allow yourself to get excited, to get sad, to get angry, to get ranty, to get fired up, to explore whatever feeling moved is like for you, and just explore it. And you'll figure it out as you go. It'll become more clear the more you talk about it, or the more you share, or the more you see what resonates. But that very, very first step is giving yourself permission to be moved by your own message, your own story, your own journey.
That's perfect. Okay, well, thank you again for sharing your time with us today, and I can't wait to be opening the door for a whole lot of message movers to come and find out what it's like to stand in their own power as a lighthouse of their own.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really lovely to chat with you. As always, we are so like-minded, and I always just love having these conversations with you. I'd like to be able to sit around for an evening over a bottle of wine and just keep on talking.
Well, I'm definitely making my way down to Adelaide in the new year, so let's plan to do just that, because there's
Oh, perfect.
quite a few gorgeous people in that area of the world that I've only had these online connections with, so I'm really looking forward to an offline connection as well.
Oh, it'd be great.
And everyone who's listening, you came across to hear this podcast episode today because there is something waiting for you. You know it, you can feel it. It's bubbling up in your belly right now. And as Karen so beautifully said, you just need to give yourself permission to look at what is that message going to be. If it's something that feels important to you, if it's something that fires you up, it gets you angry, gets you sad, gets you seeing a gap that needs to be closed. It doesn't matter what it is for you. We absolutely guarantee you that if you have a message that feels important to you, it's going to connect with and feel important to somebody else as well. You don't have to see the whole picture. You don't have to write the whole book today. All you need to do is open the page with pen poised and start to write, start to move. and let's just see where the pieces fall into place. Products, services, all of that stuff, that will come as well. But it needs to start from that place where you feel absolutely inspired, something that you really want to communicate. Karen's done it. I've done it. So many of our clients have done it. And we didn't have it all together at first. Not at all. Just give yourself permission, because pretty soon you'll find yourself shining. So thank you so much for spending your time listening to the Next Chapter podcast. I really appreciate that, and I look forward to continue to bring you gorgeous guests with wonderful messages that are here to inspire you in your next chapter. Take care, and we'll talk again very soon. Thanks for listening to the Your Next Chapter podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please let me know. Pop over to angelaraspas.com to subscribe to the show and leave a review. And whilst you're there, you can also enjoy valuable free resources, including show notes and downloads, along with the Next Chapter community, where you can connect with other wholehearted women on the same journey as you. We'd love to welcome and support you as your next chapter unfolds. See you next time.